Welcome back, guys, to another video brought to you by your one and only literary Pharaoh. I want to talk to you guys about something that's very significant in our, in our mode of existence, in the way that we exist, and how significant our mind frames are in developing our character and the way we perceive our current reality. I was on YouTube. I know some of you guys know this guy named Jason Whitlock. He has a YouTube channel called Fearless. And I understand what his motivation, where his motivation comes from. In my opinion, he has a multitude of angles that he comes at in terms of how he approaches his audience. In one instance, he paints himself as a person that's fearless, that he stands for God and all this biblical value stuff that he likes to talk about. And that right there is a message that's geared to tug at the heartstrings of those who are centered on that social paradigm of being a Christian, who call themselves a Christian. So if you're into that religion and that's what you believe in, then he already has you hooked in. So he plays the anti-world person. He plays the spiritual man that's in a secular world. And if people believe in the dogmas of the Bible and they wholeheartedly have bought into the narratives that are preached in pulpits about how you're supposed to be in this world but not of it, and then a person like Jason Whitlock will resonate with you, so he gets that audience. He also gets the audience of people of melanated, of high melanin content. I don't like to say black people, but he likes to push for an audience of highly melanated people who do not love themselves or are ashamed of their own race and culture. Now, you guys may be saying, man, you're digging a little bit too deep here. Like, how do you know all that? Well, he doesn't have to say it overtly. Whenever you have topics of race, and this is where he makes his bread and butter at. He already has the Christian people hooked. So he has that audience. He has numbers from that because he plays the anti-world person, the anti-world view, and I'm coming from a biblical world view. So right then and there, he already captures an audience of Bible believers. Then the next step is to capitulate to the racial wars that happens consistently in our country. And he feeds into that and he leans into that intentionally. But he leans into it in a way that's not what you will think, because he's a highly melanated person with a skin color like mine. You would think that he would just go with the status quo, but he does not do that. He finds ways to lean into topics that are racial, but not only leaning into them, but having a perception of the scenario that gives credence to him as being very distinct and unique in how he approaches it. So for instance, if there's a situation that's dealing with a black and white person, Jason Whitlock 9 out of 10 times is going to lean on the white person's side. But he does this intentionally. He plays the racial game. He doesn't lean to what's right or wrong. He finds certain narratives that can build him as a person that's anti-black, pro-white, but I'm anti-black reason. So because I'm anti-black reason, I'm above the normal race-baiting black person, but when in actuality, he's doing the same thing that black people do. He's just doing it from the lens of the white person's perspective. So he's playing the same game. It's the same coin, just on a different side. Because his producers, they get to pick and choose what topics they want to talk about. There are plenty of instances where white people are doing things that are racial, and he likes to stay in that racial pocket because there's a lot of emotion there. So if you want to do a YouTube channel, this is just an advice to anybody. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to sell my soul for that. I'm going to do, like I said, my YouTube channel is based upon me talking about topics that I want to talk about. I don't lean into the race talk. I think that the race talk is a form of quasi-witchcraft. Quasi-witchcraft means that it's not fully witchcraft, but it has elements of witchcraft. Anything that siphons your emotion and dictates your energy in motion, because that's what emotion is. Anything that forces you to move a certain way based upon the way you feel, but not based upon logic and truth. Because if you're going off of feelings, then your feelings can override your logic. And then when your feelings override your logic, your whole perception is viewed from a feelings perspective. Then you end up inadvertently putting yourself in positions where you're constantly seeing that racial element occur constantly. So in the line of work that I work in, I work with many people, diverse group of people, okay? And it's not just black people or white people or this. I work with a multitude of different people from different backgrounds, different races. And I don't go to work thinking that white people hate me. And I don't go to work thinking black people hate me. I just do my job. I conversate with people. I treat people nicely. You have some ignorant black people that do things that are stupid. You have some ignorant white people that do things that are stupid. But I don't go around thinking that a particular race is keeping me down. See, that's the racial war that they've infused in our reality to keep us divided. And I think there's small pockets of people who've allowed themselves to be succumbed by that quasi-witchcraft of racial elements. I call it elements because there are many elements to it, right? And you hear it happening. You hear stories that come on the national news, or you have social media. They may be airing something that's racial, just like the Charlie Kirk's alleged suicide, alleged assassination. You know, some racial elements in that, because you have a lot of black people who were ecstatic and happy that he was killed, which is very, very sad to see that people are happy that someone dies. But anyway, because there's a racial element there. So people are so racially immersed into this war of black and white and racism, not knowing that there are a multitude of races that exist. The victim card is often pulled out. So emotions overrides logic. A man has been allegedly killed, and yet you praise that. You're happy about that. And you feel justified in that because someone had a different opinion than you. That's where this racial thing takes you to. It takes you to a place that's dark. That's why it's quasi-witchcraft. I'm going to tell you something. You can exist in the same ecosystem. You can exist in the same setting and have two totally different experiences. What do you mean by that? There are people today, all right? There's some celebrities, black celebrities, melanated celebrities. If you ask them, especially the young ones, maybe their mid-20s, if you ask them questions about race, about dealing with racism or anything like that, they'll tell you something to the effect of, I don't deal with that. I remember, I know Lil Wayne is older than his 20s. He's older than that. I remember he was on some show and they tried to ask him questions about race, and he's just honest. He was like, I never dealt with it. And people thought like he was being disingenuous, but he never dealt with it, because what you put your frequency on is what you're gonna get. If all you're thinking about is race, every time you walk as a black person or as a melanated person, every time you walk by a person that's white, you automatically have your racial radar up, thinking that this white person may hate me. But if you're gonna go around with that type of worldview, then you're gonna get what you're looking for. You're gonna get what you're looking for, because that's all you can. Your radar is hyper focused on that. You won't see the greatness of the diverse elements around you, of how many different races are coming together to make things work cohesively for one unit. You won't see that aspect. What you will see is what you're gonna do is find the small pockets of racial elements and racial stories to hinge your emotion on. So what Jason Whitlock does, he appeals to the heartstring of the emotionally inept. So when I say emotionally inept, it's people who are not emotionally aware or who lack emotional intelligence. Because if you possess emotional intelligence, all right, then you'll understand your perspective, you'll understand your state and your status, you'll be grounded, you'll be secure in who you are, and you won't walk around with this inferiority complex thinking that the white man is out to get you, or that white people are racist. It wouldn't be fair for white people to just deem all black people as racist. But I don't care. My job is not to play detective and to find out who hates whatever. I think that generally speaking, we all govern ourselves as civil people. And yes, is there a bit of racial profiling in all that we do? Yes, we all stereotype, we all racial profile to a certain degree, but that's difference. That's a difference from being a racist. Racist denotes hate. It has a stigma with the word hate attached to it. It means that you hate a particular race of people based upon their skin hue, which is the dumbest thing we could think of because we all come from one source. We just have different skin tones and different biochemistry for if you want to break it down to a molecular level, why certain people's pigments are darker and why some people don't have as deeper rich of uromelanin as other races. I mean, all those things are scientific, but for the most part we're the same people. Okay, so Jason Whitlock is very clever at pulling in those people, so he plays the pocket of race, even with the Caitlin Clark thing and the other girl, I forgot her name. The African American girl, the tall girl that plays for, she's in the WNBA too. All right, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. He played that card. Okay, he played the card, but he's always more often than not, he's gonna lean on the side of the European, and that's racist because he's an inverted racist. See, go on his channel. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I just couldn't stomach it because I'm to the point where I can't even bring myself to watch things about race like that. I have to kind of back myself off of it because it can contaminate your psyche. You got to be very careful because what you plug into is what you're going to end up outputting. So your input dictates your output. And I don't want to be a person walking around with lenses of race all the time. I see beautiful people around me all the time, white, black. Some of the nicest things have been done to me by white people. Some of the nicest things have been done to me by black people. So in my personal life and my personal experience, I've probably dealt with racism, but because I'm not hyper focused on it, I haven't seen it. It hasn't been so overt. Like no one has ever came in my face and called me the N-word. Like I've never seen a white person do something that's flagrantly racist, right? Now, a white person may have their racial perceptions about my skin color, and they may judge me, which we all do. We all do it. Don't sit here and say you don't have any biases. But once you break those barriers down, and you break those barriers down, you start to communicate, you start to see like we actually have more in common than we have than the differences. We're so focused on our differences that we exclude the commonalities that we have. It's actually a travesty. It's actually very sad. And you have people who have YouTube channels, who have social media channels, who make a living off of talking about race, and they get a lot of attention. The whole country is divided off this bullshit. Many of you guys are just stupid. I'm going to be very, very blunt with you guys. You guys are idiots when you guys jump into that realm. It's simple. I don't hate white people. I don't hate black people. I don't hate Mexicans. I don't hate anybody. Now, is there certain things that certain races are known for doing that you can racial profile? Yeah, we all do that. You have comedians who get on the stage and make jokes about it, and they say what Mexicans normally do. They'll say what black people normally do. They'll say what white people normally do. Or people make jokes about a white person in a movie compared to a black person in a movie. You guys have seen those Instagram posts. My wife sometimes sends me those clips. They'll have a guy kind of acting out the differences between how a white person would react in a scary situation and how a black person would react. Those things are supposed to be comical and funny. It's not racist. It's just we're just identifying our differences, and that's okay because it's done in a comedic way. But this racial thing is crazy because colleges are starting to now indoctrinate young minds about that, about how the world's against you and the system. No, everybody's being governed by the same unfair system. We're not all equal because we all probably didn't start from the same place, but we all have the same opportunities. And if you harbor resentment toward a particular race and you think that they have the power to keep you down, then that's you, number one, being ignorant, number two, you being misinformed, and you being the actual cancer to your own situation. You are the problem to your own problem. No one else outside of you is the problem. Your attitude and how you think is your problem. So if you continue to play this victim card or think that you need to do extra to get attention because black people are not looked upon as equal, then you have a slave mentality. I've never considered myself unintelligent. And people may say, well, it's because you have because your parents are Nigerian. Well, yeah, my parents are Nigerian, and I grew up in Nigeria as a kid, and I came to the States when I was 8 years old. So I have both elements. I've ran around with people of high melanin content, and I've been in their circles, and I hear their stories about race, but it never impacted me, because I deal with my situations on a case-by-case basis. I'm not gonna blanket. I'm not gonna throw all white people into a pot and call them all racist. That's ignorant. That removes accountability and responsibility on my part to do my part to make sure that I carry myself in a way that's respectable, and that's honorable, and that's decent. But if I throw all the white people in a pot and call them racist, then it kind of absolves me of any responsibility, because I can see myself as the victim, and I lash out at people who I don't even know, because I've already deemed them to be racist, meaning that they hate me. No, black people, we hate ourselves. And Jason Whitlock internally hates himself, so he's known for doing things like this. And it's just sad, because he doesn't even have to pick a side. He doesn't even have to talk about those things. But he chooses to do that deliberately to show that I'm the token Negro and I'm different from all the other black people. Look at me, I'm so different. He's doing it to, in a way, he's doing it to ingratiate himself or put himself in good standing with those that are probably really racist. Hey, you don't have to hate me, I'm on your side. See, when you're in that world, it takes over your mind. So it just depends on what world you're in. Like I'm telling you, I've done videos here to talk about the distinctions between, you know, the white genome and the black genome. I've done that before. But in terms of my life and my 40-something plus years of living on this planet, I could probably name one situation where I can perceive that a person was being racist to me, but I wouldn't even call it racist. It was one of my supervisors. She sent an email giving undertones of as if I was basically insulting my intelligence, basically telling me that, what school did you go to? I think I had some typos in my email, and then she was kind of referencing what I wrote and the mistakes I had, but I can't even remember, it was so long ago. But that's on my part. I should have done better to write the email and read it over, because I was writing that email in anger anyway. It was in my younger years. You know, my temper was much quicker back then. I've grown and I've gotten much better, and I've gotten better with actually thinking through before I react or before I respond. You'd be amazed at what taking deep breaths can do. That's the only time I could perceive it, but that's a perception. You know, that's just a perception because she was a white woman. So I'm thinking that this white woman must think I'm dumb because I'm a black man. But that was my perception. But as I start to get older and become more confident in myself, if someone says anything like that to me, my first go-to is not, you're racist. I'll just say, okay, I'll look at what I did and look at how the person may have thought. Like I basically try to look at it from a totality. I'll try to look at the totality of the whole situation before I just run to the race card and say, oh, it's a race card, racist. Like, it's pretty immature. We got to grow out of that as people. But yeah, the point of this video is not to immerse yourself in that racial element. Be careful what you listen to. You're going to have these precedents. They call them precedents. These are stories that are put out intentionally by social media. It's a CIA operation. It's done psychologically to manipulate the narratives and to cause people to have certain dialogue and to move the needle into a particular agenda that these controllers want. But it all starts with thought. It starts with narratives. It starts with putting out messaging, because the CIA, the news, all the major news networks are part of the CIA operation. It's called a psychological operation because the news you get, you're feeding off the news. You're channeling. They're channeling. It's all witchcraft, folks. It's programming. It's channeling. You're on the channel. You're listening to a channel. They're channeling your brain to be on their frequency. So then they put out stories that are going to elicit certain emotional responses because they've already preconditioned your mind prior to you watching a particular video. These people have schedules and when they're going to put out certain false flag events on television to drive narratives. So if you're privy to that and you understand that, you're more equipped to handle yourself with a certain degree of emotional, emotional control, to not fall into those traps where you see these stories come on. Okay?